thank you all for being here tonight and the opportunity to speak with you. My name is Todd Richardson, and I'm currently serving as a state representative from Poplar Bluff. But more importantly, I'm a husband. My wife Amber is here somewhere tonight. I'm a father, and I'm a Southeast Missourian who was raised on the belief that America is different. That ours is a nation divined by God, intended to serve as that shining city on the hill that Ronald Reagan invoked. As I've traveled around the district, many of you on the committee have been asking me the same basic question. Why are you running? I'm running because I believe America remains the greatest nation in the history of the world, the place where more than anywhere else, everyone has the opportunity to make a great life for themselves, no matter where they were born or what their parents did for a living. Unfortunately, the America that we grew up in and love is in serious danger. We have a system in Washington now that's rigged in favor of the poor and the powerful, and that ignores hardworking Americans who want nothing more than the opportunity to live the American dream. I'm running because I believe the 8th District needs a conservative voice in Washington who will stand up for the people who live and work in our communities, not those looking to game the system or live off the government. Most importantly, I'm running because I want my own son to grow up in a country that values work over welfare, that values opportunity over opportunism, and values faith in God more than dependency in an ever-expanding federal government. Now, it's no secret to anyone in this room, but Washington is broken. Washington is broken when our response to a national spending crisis is not to get serious about cutting spending or reforming entitlements, but instead to focus on tax increases on job creators. Washington is broken when the Department of Labor wants to prevent children from working on family farms. Washington is broken when the Park Service wants to shut down our rivers without regard to private property rights or the economic impact. Washington is most certainly broken when the Corps of Engineers cares more about water skiers in South Dakota than it does barge traffic on the Mississippi River. As big as our challenges are, I refuse to believe we've lost the capacity to solve them. Ours is a nation that took on the largest empire in the world and won. Ours is a nation that survived a Great Depression and emerged from it to build the strongest economy the world has ever known. Ours is a nation that stared down Hitler, won the Cold War, has been a beacon of freedom for the entire world. And a country that was able to do all that. We can solve these problems if we're willing to try. That's why I'm running for Congress, and I'd be honored to have your support.
Okay, in selecting our candidate, we expect to do better. We want Missouri to do better. We are close to losing what has made us strong and what makes America great. Our country is $16 trillion in debt. Our current leader wants a blank check. Joanne Emerson voted yes on what they are calling over the cliff. How do you think that could have been handled differently?
Well, I absolutely would have voted no on what is being called a deal in Washington. And to me, when I see it, it wasn't a deal at all. It was Republicans taking a shellacking. There was not one single thing in the fiscal cliff package that addressed the root of our problem, which is spending. All it did was raise tax increases, put tax increases on 70% of Americans. We have over $16 trillion in debt now. It's time to stop focusing on tax increases, and it's time to get serious about cutting spending.
There's 435 districts in the U.S. Our district is rated the 8th poorest. Out of the 9 districts in Missouri, it is rated the poorest. The median income is $27,865, with the household income in Dent County $32,991. What are your plans to change this?
Well, it's to get government out of the way. The reality is that government can't grow our economy. Job creators have to grow our economy. And what we see out of Washington now is item after item after item that does nothing to help people trying to start a small business or grow a small business. It puts up barriers to people having a small business. 7 out of every 10 jobs in this country are created by a small business. What we need to be focused on in Washington is getting Washington out of the way and having a tax structure and a regulatory environment and a litigation environment that allow people to grow their business and create jobs.
Okay, the candidate selected for this vacancy will have to be capable of raising money. It is rumored that it will take $200,000 to $300,000. Do you feel you are capable to raise the required funds? And if so, tell us how you plan to do that.
Well, I do, and it probably starts with getting a list of everybody here and coming back and asking you all to help. But yes, I do believe I have the capacity to do that, and I wouldn't have entered this race if I didn't think I had what it takes to succeed politically and to win this district. And the first thing we're going to have to recognize is that money alone won't win it. We are no longer in an environment where you can just spend money and win an election. We're going to have to build a party from the bottom up. But during my tenure in the House, I've been very successful at raising money, and I've done that by going out and talking to people about what I want to do in Jefferson City. And the way I'll raise money in this district is I'll go out and talk to people about what I'm going to do in Washington, D.C.
What is your position on stem cell research?
I support stem cell research that doesn't destroy embryos. We've been very fortunate in this country to have technology to develop in a way where the debate is no longer about whether you want to destroy embryos or support stem cell research. But I would not support stem cell research if it requires the destruction of an embryo.
Last of all, we don't want a candidate that will take the easy path and put tough decisions off for another day. Our children and our grandchildren's futures are at stake. Convince us you wouldn't do that and why you're the best candidate for this vacancy.
Wow, that's a lot in one question. And how long do I have to answer? Okay, 1 minute. All right, well, look, I've demonstrated during my time in Jefferson City, and what I told the voters when I ran for that office is that I would vote my conscience and I would vote my principle, even if that meant telling my own party no. And I can promise you, if you send me to Washington, D.C., that's exactly the same perspective that I'm going to take. But I believe I'm the best candidate in this race, and I'll give you 3 very quick reasons. First, I'll be a fierce advocate for my constituents in Washington. I've done that in Jefferson City, and that's what I'll do in Washington. Second, I will communicate a message of conservative opportunity that helps appeal to young people's aspirations and helps us grow our party's base. And third, what I will do is I will go to Washington and I will be true to who I am. The guy standing before you right now is the same person I'll be 10 years from now. I will not lose perspective on where I came from. And those principles will always guide me when I make decisions in Washington.
I'm just kidding. That wasn't the last question. I missed one. There has been much talk about gun control. Here in the Ozarks, most of us have and use guns. This level of freedom is something to be thankful for. We always want to keep this freedom. The person we select, we want to know without a shadow of a doubt that that person would vote to keep this freedom if it comes to that.
Well, let me sum up my view of gun control this way. You control your guns, and I'll control mine. Now, I don't know if you all saw it today, but President Obama today said that he might be willing to use... Good. President Obama said today that he would be willing to use his executive order power to institute gun control. I can tell you this, if I'm in Washington and he tries to do that, I will refuse to fund any department that he intends on having enforced that law. And I will consider it a violation of his oath of office to protect the Second Amendment in the Constitution.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.